But here we are on this morning, on this extraordinary moment, as the Minister already said, the Nobel Peace Prize once again is awarded to an environmental set of ambassadors, if you want. I am convinced of the importance of the United Nations today. It is through the multilateral system that a nation like Iceland can also both defend its interests but also be part of crafting a global response to what is a global environmental set of phenomena of change today. You may be discussing at one moment intensely the establishment of the largest protected area in Europe or the arrival of another aluminium smelter, and the next minute you have to switch and you have to talk about environmental change on a scale that we have never really conceived of in the history of humankind on this planet. We have to talk about an ozone hole, that layer, that thin layer that keeps all life on this planet really going. You have to talk about global warming and the fact that 6.5 billion people in just 200 years have managed to create a condition on this planet that is fundamentally changing the future of literally every living organism on this planet. We have to talk about water not anymore in terms of a lake or one river or a well. We have to talk about the whole hydrological cycle, the fact that hundreds of millions of people will in the next 20, 30 years live in water-deficient regions of this world, that with the melting of glaciers in the Himalayas, as the IPCC has predicted, we will be confronted with a situation that probably most of the glaciers in the Himalayas will disappear or at least be significantly reduced in the next 30 to 50 years, with immediate and direct consequences for hundreds of millions of people, their livelihoods and their entire economic structure, their livelihood base that they have developed over hundreds of years, because they live downstream of these glaciers. And as we know, water is at the end of the day the lifeline that explains so much of the geospatial but also economic development patterns that have evolved. And here I would say that what climate change has given us for the next few years in terms of public attention, intensive public debate about choices that we need to make, traction from conservation and biodiversity. We need to look at climate change as perhaps the most powerful locomotive yet for transforming the relationship between environmental sustainability and economic development and economic growth. Look at the main areas that are being proposed for action in terms of response to climate change. Greater energy efficiency in buildings, renewable energy resources, changing transport modes, investing in carbon sinks, looking at sequestration, valuing the standing forests on this planet, the so-called reducing emissions from deforestation concept in the climate change discussions. These are all vehicles that should not only bring a much greater understanding into the ecology of our ecosystems, but also into the economic dimensions that will help us as a global community to invest in each other's ability to sustain them. Because it is no good to believe that the response to climate change will be one confined to national boundaries. It is the ultimate proof that right now, at this stage, when humanity thought it would, with all the technology and science and capital that it has, somehow escape the constraints of nature, it is actually being thrown back into nature in a way that we had never anticipated. And that is the power of climate change as an issue around which we can all mobilize our societies and address the full spectrum of environmental sustainability issues in the context of economic development choices. And I think in Iceland, with all the challenges and the continuing discussion you have, you should be proud in the way that you have led this dialogue, because clearly you are ahead of many other nations and societies in having had both the dialogue and having made choices that others are still struggling to understand. Thank you.